Knack on the PS4. Chapter 2. We're on hard difficulty, by the way. In my last video, well, I already played the game a bunch on the normal difficulty level on Chapter 1. I was fine. The hard difficulty mode wasn't that much harder, to be honest with you. Maybe the enemies hit a bit harder, I don't know. So, I'll play through the rest of the game if I feel like it on the hard difficulty level. We'll see if it makes a big difference, but I doubt it. Well, I wasn't really sure what to make of this game before I played, because really, when I heard Knack 2 came out, like a couple of years ago, I'm like, I actually think Knack 2 came out last year, right, in 2017? Excuse me, last year was, okay. Knack 2 came out in 2017, I believe. I didn't even know there was a Knack 1. I mean, right? Yeah, this Knack game came out in 2013, so I guess it was a launch title. But yeah, I mean, my impression of Knack was that I just had no. I think my impression of Knack 2 was that it was one of those sequels that we got to a game that we didn't know existed. Cause I played Styx. I played a tiny bit of Styx 2, Shards of Darkness. I didn't even know there was an original. There were a couple of other games that struck me. I think Port Royale was another game like that, but apparently that was a classic PC title, so that's not out of the question. I'm always kind of fascinated by these games that just kind of get like sequels in North America to games that we never got to see the originals for. I'm trying to think, on the 16-bit systems, I want to say there were a bunch of, games in the back then where we got sequels to games that didn't know existed. Like Wonder Boy might be the obvious one. Because the Genesis got a Wonder Boy and Monster World that was a sequel to a bunch of games that most people probably didn't know because they were only on the Master System. And of course they repurposed Wonder Boy to Adventure Island, right? So, how many people even knew that? I mean, the other problem is how many people even knew about the arcade game? Of course, depending on whom you ask, Ninja Turtles might as well have been a sequel first. Because how many people, of course the NES version sold well, but the NES version of Ninja Turtles didn't play like any of the other ones, and one shot killed me with that one. Wow, it's a pretty bad checkpoint there. So I guess this game, like I said, this game came out in 2013, so it's a launch title that feels like a PS3 game that got upscaled for the PS4. Which I guess would explain the performance. I mean, it's not exactly a looker. I mean, everything about this game just feels like, aborted PS3 mascot title remade as a PS4 game. And they didn't improve the engine that much, apparently. In fact, it's probably worth noting, Digital Foundry did a video, like, what was it? Yeah, early January 2019, about, they're basically giving up on the, that's a pretty weird cut there. Just changing camera angles like that. What's going on, Knack? Anyway, they've given up on the PS4. They've given up on the Xbox One, the base Xbox One, because they said performance in modern games is just too, it's just really getting bad. This is kind of the last gasp for PS4 development these days, because I think they're ready to move on to like the next console. So yeah, basically, God of War is the last chance for the PS4 to really shine on its own, because every game from here on out is going to be a downport, I guess. That seems to be the argument behind the Xbox 360 or the Xbox One at this point. I mean, yeah, it's more capable than the Switch, sure, but the Switch is portable, so the expectations are slightly different. Of course, the Nintendo tax and the portability tax, well, the struggle is real on that one. But the weird thing about the Xbox, I mean, if this game came out on the Xbox One, I mean, people would probably say, like, okay, this feels like, seems about appropriate, but it's on the PS4, so. Obviously, the big dig against the PS3 was that, yeah, it was slightly underpowered compared to the Xbox 360. But as an owner of both consoles, I'm not really worried about that. Really, the only console that really underperformed was the Wii U. I mean, that thing could barely even run Arkham City. I mean, I don't know what those guys. I think they just got a bad port, really. If they committed to building a decent port for that console, it probably would have worked. But I think they were combined with a really bad port, combined with a deadline. It just killed them. I'll have to figure out what's going on with that. Because you would think that the Wii would be able to have more than, well, but it had plenty of RAM. It just didn't have that much. I mean, it had more RAM than the Xbox 360 did. But the processor was, I mean, God. It was like half the speed of the Xbox 360 processor, right? So I guess Nintendo decided to just kind of just go cheap. Go cheap or go home. I guess that was their philosophy, because remember the GameCube was a big deal. It was more powerful than the PS2, but Really? Whoops. Got a hummingbird. Or is it a woodpecker? I can't even tell. But yeah, I guess Nintendo learned their lesson after the GameCube. It was more powerful than the PS2, but I guess the developers just preferred the PS2. I mean, obviously the PS2 was good enough for what it was, but I mean, yeah, compared to the competition at the time, it was really lackluster. But obviously the library is what counts. And the developers were more than happy developing on that PS2, so why bother? I mean, even games that were GameCube exclusives, like the, what was it? Resident Evil 4 was a... Yeah, Resident Evil 4 was a GameCube exclusive for a while, and then they decided, you know what, we're finally going to make it on the... We're going to make it on the PS2. Beautiful Joe was a GameCube exclusive. They finally... Whoop, I need to play Beautiful Joe, by the way. They finally decided to make it on the PS2 eventually. I don't know if performance took a serious hit, but... I mean, how many people were looking at the PS2 library and saying, oh, this thing's too disappointing? Well, obviously, some of the later games, like, you know... How to Train Your Dragon. What was the other big one? I'm forgetting. Like some of the early 360 games, like Gun. Like the very early 360 games that were cross-platform titles, like Gun or I guess Mercenaries 2. Like games like that, you know, took a bit of a dip in terms of performance compared to like, you know, the Xbox or whatever. As you would expect. And of course, if you play games like, what was it, Monster Jam and those early 360 games I told you about, yeah, you would expect a dip in performance. Like I think to this day, I think that the best version of Spyro Dawn of the Dragon was on the 360, if I'm not mistaken. Because that's the game I played. I played the PS3 version though. That game got a bunch of cross-platform releases, but none of them were anywhere near as expensive as the PS3 and 360 versions were. So if you're a big fan of Spyro after playing that Spyro Trilogy Reignited thing, you might want to check it out, I guess. I can't justify the price, really. It's just not that good a game. I mean, I gave up on it, not because it was terrible. It's because it's just meh. Just a mess. It's God of War as a Spyro game. I don't know why they did that. Okay, I need some health here. Give me a break. But really, I mean, okay, you know me. Most of this channel's content is me playing Xbox One games offline with no internet connection. So why am I not playing? Whoop, there's a secret area back there behind that thing, behind that rock. So why am I not playing Xbox One games? Well, because I'm busy playing this. It's easier for me to record content on this thing without it skipping frames. Because I realize I have like 30 hours of video at least. Xbox One games that I can't actually record. But I can't actually put on YouTube because the audio's out of sync. So I could put it on YouTube anyway, but there's no commentary, then what's the point? Most of my videos are about commentary. The ones that I do without commentary tend to be Japanese RPGs and such. You can listen to the original voice acting, really. But even then, I'm kind of asking myself, like, if I'm gonna play Xbox One games, it's gonna be because, you know, they're significantly cheaper than the PS4 versions, I guess. But it's just more trouble to make videos for the Xbox One right now. I mean, really, after the whole, what was it? After the whole Assassin's Creed Odyssey scenario, the whole Assassin's Creed Odyssey situation, I was like, I can't even play new games on that thing unless I download something. I have to see if I need a firmware upgrade on those things. But I should mention this. Ever since I got this PS4, every single game I've purchased can be played on it. Even Just Cause 3, once I got around that little bug, that was bugging me to death. The PS4 really hasn't given me any problems. Whereas if I get an Xbox One game, there's still like a 30% chance a game that I purchased won't work. Like Toy Soldiers, that Toy Soldiers game I got on the PS4. Toy Soldiers, what was it, War Chest, whatever it's called? I tried to install, it wouldn't even install on the Xbox One. I'm like, this game doesn't require an internet connection, does it? Then I bought the PS4 version and installed and played just fine. No effort whatsoever. Of course, the other problem is that the games wasn't that good, so... So the PS4 version works just fine. I don't know what was going on with the Xbox One version. But there are games like, what was it, Immortal Unchained, and I already mentioned Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It doesn't work on the Xbox One unless I go online for some reason. So if I rent Red Dead Redemption 2, is it even gonna run on the Xbox One without requiring an internet connection? Because remember, all my games are supposed to work offline. I mean, the good news is that Killer Instinct works offline. Got him. Not so sure about yeah, what was it? It was the Rare Replay. Yeah, Rare Replay. The KI Gold did not work offline because I had to download an N64 emulator on the Microsoft website, for crying out loud. Like, I had to actually put my console online just so I can play half of the Rare Replay. I mean, it was ridiculous. So that kind of stuff just drives me nuts about the Xbox One. I mean, I love the price. I mean, it's $150 now. If you don't have one, I would highly recommend you get one. If you don't have a PS4, or if you're stuck with a Switch for some reason, I mean, expensive as that thing is, and all the games are ridiculously expensive on that thing. If you want to play modern games on a console, you know, the Xbox One is fine. I mean, the best games of this generation that are cross-platform, you know, they're on there. If you love Red Dead Redemption 2, it runs just fine on the Xbox One. Well, by just fine, I mean it runs reasonably well. Does it run as well as the PS4? No. But, you know, Doom runs great. Just Cause 3 runs about as well as any other platform, as well as any other console version does. But if you don't like Just Cause 3, if you like Madden, you know, Madden runs fine on that thing. FIFA runs fine on that thing. Actually, I haven't played FIFA in a while. Rocket League runs fine, runs great on that thing. I mean, the resolutions kind of takes a dip, but I mean, come on. Are you honestly counting pixels? I mean, yeah, look, I mean, the Xbox One version doesn't look as good as the PS4 version. It's Rocket League. I mean, are you going to not play Rocket League because it looks slightly less detailed and slightly blurrier than a PS4 version? But yeah, I'll be the first person to admit this. 3 minutes into owning this console, this PS4, the $100 premium, I would argue that it's worth it right now. I know I probably shouldn't say that, but you're getting a much bigger library of exclusive games and physical games. That's the big thing. And I don't play online, so I can't tell you anything about the what do you call it? I can't tell you anything about the online experience. I don't know anything about download speeds. I don't care about that stuff because I don't download anything online with these consoles anyway. Which is why I have an Xbox One that I keep offline. So its major advantage over the PS4, other than price, is completely worthless because I don't download anything on it. But yeah, the PS4 is more physical copies of games. So if you want to, like, if you're a collector who plays retro games on a regular basis, and you don't mind playing 10-year-old video games, you know, the PS4 games will still work 10 years from now. Like, I love Dead Cells. It's my favorite game so far. It's my favorite game of the decade so far. I mean, I'll play about 10 more hours of it just to make sure, but it might be my favorite game, you know, my favorite video game since Ultra Street Fighter 4. Oops. Wow, I'm getting killed out here. This game is hard. It's on the hard mode. So basically, it's just about, you know, not being able to take hits, I want to say. It's having, like, no life meter, basically. I mean, I'll use my Sunstones eventually. Ow. Eventually. Eat it. But yeah, I said Just Cause 3. I mean, the people who are saying it's unplayable, I think they're trying to do certain activities. I mean, because I played the game for about 20 hours, and the performance was fine. It'll probably dip if I get really ambitious later, but right now, after 20 hours, it's fine. So, and that's the other thing. How many games would you want to play for 20 hours? I mean, am I going to spend 20 hours playing God of War? Well, probably not. I've been told the game doesn't really get good to about 6 hours in anyway. So it's like a Zelda game, practically. You play the game for 6 hours and eventually it gets good. You know, whatever. I'll play it again eventually, but games like that, I realize there's going to be a long wind-up, so it's going to hurt. And Horizon might just be slightly overrated. I'll see how that goes, because I only played the tutorial area. So I have to wait for the game to wind up before it actually gets interesting. And some of these games, like Shadow of Mordor, like if you can't buy them on PC, you know, the Xbox One version's just fine. Runs fine. Still one of my favorite games of the generation, Shadow of Mordor. And if I can get my hands on Dragon's Dogma, I'll let you know the performance is good on that game too. But the PC version's fantastic. So I was surprised by how much I got into So I think what happened was with Dark Arisen, you know, Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, is that when they added those fast travel stones, they made travel a lot less of a chore. So it opened up the pace of the game and improved the pace of the game immensely. So it's not as much about slogging through certain areas. Like, you know, trekking out to certain areas and fighting the same enemies over and over again if you wanted to go on a long journey. It was about, okay, now you can set up waypoints for areas you want to visit regularly. Then you can just come back later with those fast travel stones. So, I mean, it was one little fix that arguably made the game way better. And I think what happened was it turned to a game that required a lot of patience, like a good game that required a lot of patience, to a great game that required a bit less patience. It made the game a lot more accessible. It was still challenging, it was just less of a slog. Because because basically travel wasn't just massive, you know, chore you had to do every time you wanted to play the game and make a little bit of progress. You know, your traversal and your exploration wasn't limited so much that you didn't even want to travel. You didn't want to travel in that game because it just took so long to get anywhere and do anything. And when they opened it up with those extra fast travel stones, that helped immensely. So that's a game if that game ends up being good on consoles, I'm going to recommend that game too, but it's kind of pricey. I think it's like in the $20 range. I want to say Monster Hunter World's probably less expensive than that game is these days. Because Monster Hunter World's almost impossible. Dragon's Dogma is basically Monster Hunter, only a lot more accessible. So if you want to train yourself, I guess you could play Dragon's Dogma, and you can actually pause the game. So that's always nice. Ow. So the game's more accessible in that sense too. But there are a lot of games I'm missing. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the Xbox One collection, and like, there are lots of great games on it that I don't play because, you know, I have a PC that plays them better, like at a higher frame rate, so, you know, whatever. I mean, I have a bunch of videos of Shadow of Mordor, so I know I like it. You know, Dragon's Dogma, I know I like it. So if the console performance is at least competent, then I would recommend them. I mean, these aren't games that really require any of that really heavy-duty performance nonsense. And Skyrim is great on the Xbox One, too, so for some reason you haven't played Skyrim. Well, we haven't played the Legendary Edition of Skyrim, which basically fixes most of Skyrim's, you know, leveling problems and some of the AI nonsense. Not all of it, obviously, because Bethesda. But yeah, Skyrim's obviously, that's a must-buy. Even if you already, I mean, if you don't own it on PC though, I mean, you're missing out. There's some great stuff on PC for Skyrim, but Skyrim, I mean, it's a $5 game. It's a $5, $7, $8 game these days on sale. So if you really want Skyrim on PC, eventually you can get it. Unfortunately, Skyrim's it's kind of a weird PC situation because they got rid of the old version of the game. So I think the best way I could describe it is it was a game that ran decently on like laptops, and it became a game that's somewhat more demanding on laptops. So your 5-year-old $200 budget laptop probably was able to run the original Skyrim, but it probably can't run the Legendary Edition. So that's disappointing. But I bought a physical copy of Skyrim. Can you believe it? I bought a physical PC game. But you weren't able to buy the game. You weren't able to install the game unless you had Steam anyway, so whatever. But apparently I'm able to install the old version of the game, so it runs on my old laptops. So I'm kind of shocked, but yeah, one of the best games of the decade runs on a $200 laptop. I mean, I swear it does. It totally does. Look out, dude. So if you have a $200 Chromebook, well, maybe not a Chromebook, but if you have a laptop, it'll run Skyrim. In fact, I have some videos on this channel that show me playing Skyrim on a crappy $200 laptop from 3 years ago. I think that laptop was made in 2005. So if my laptop can run Skyrim, yours probably can. So there you go. In fact, that's probably what I'm going to focus on once I'm done playing around with the new PS4 library. You know, I'll put in maybe 100 more hours into a few more PS4 games and mix it up again, because I got to play my NES Classic eventually. Got to play my Super NES Classic. The PS Classic just plummeted in price, and $50 to $60 for a PS Classic. You know what? I'm not going to complain about that price. I might end up getting one. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, what, am I going to not like PS1 games? I mean, first of all, most of the games in there are just crap anyway. But even if, I mean, the complaints about performance to me are like, okay, I'm looking at the games that are included, and except for maybe Tekken, what games would you want to play on that thing that require a better console than that require better performance than what's on there? Like, Ridge Racer, yeah, it runs better on the PSP. It runs better on the PS1. It's Ridge Racer. I'm not gonna get bent out of shape over. I never liked Ridge Racer. I played Ridge Racer 4 when it came out. I mean, yeah, the sound's annoying. So yeah, the music, the sound is kind of weird. The sound emulation is weird. The performance has a few more hiccups than the original console does, but some of these games doesn't even matter. I mean, Final Fantasy VII. Are you really gonna be worried about Final Fantasy VII's emulation performance? I mean, really? That game has problems that has nothing to do with the PS Classic. The PS Classic did not create any problems with that game that were not already present. Same thing's probably true of Siphon Filter and what was it? It was Siphon Filter and Cool Borders. There was nothing wrong with that game that the PS1 made worse. Substantially worse. Like Grand Theft Auto is apparently a terrible game that's made even more unplayable by the PS Classic. But was Grand Theft Auto ever a good game? You know, I don't know. I mean, it's basically a curiosity on that system. Like it's a filler game. In Tekken 2, and Tekken 3, well, you know, I've played very little Tekken. I've played what? I played Tekken 5? No, I played Tekken 4 on the PS2. I played a lot of Tekken 2 because I owned that game, because I got the demo and then ended up buying the game for like $10 back in the day. But I tried doing a video on a Tekken Tag Tournament, and my eyes just glazed over. I mean, I got the Wii U version of Tekken Tag, I got the PS2 version. They're like $3, $4 games. But as soon as I went to the tutorial, my eyes just glazed over. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. How am I supposed to keep track of this stuff? And there's no tutorial. I mean, it's literally just a training mode. Like, what am I supposed to do here? So I'll play Tekken someday. I mean, with all these games I have, like I could be playing, you know, Ultra Street Fighter 4 right now. I could be playing, I have 3 versions of Guilty Gear in front of me. I got BlazBlue. So why would I even bother with Tekken? I mean, I admit it's a curiosity at this point, because I feel like I miss Tekken. And the really annoying thing about Tekken is that if you don't know how to play Tekken by now, you might be hosed. You might have to just go ahead and just play Tekken 7 and just hope that the tutorial is good. Because apparently Tekken 7 was a really good game when it came out in 2017. Or was it 2017 or 2016? Whoops, I thought I was dead. Sorry, because I thought it was one of the ogres. But yeah, I'll play some more Xbox One games, but the videos are going to be kind of a toss-up. Even the library doesn't have that many Xbox One games anymore. I mean, they have them, it's just that they're games I've already rented. I mean, I might put I don't think I'll be able to get my hands on Red Dead Redemption. But I remember when Red Dead Redemption came out, Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, you go to GameStop, and it's like, oh yeah, we're all sold out of the PS4 version, but hey, if you want the Xbox One version, we got a few copies of that. If you had an Xbox One X, you were really swimming in it, because that was the best console version of the game. You know? Well, I think it was 4K, 30 FPS. Well, I think it was only at 30. But I think it was mostly stable at 30. But Digital Foundry's like, yeah, the HDR in that thing is terrible. So, well, not terrible, but bad. Like, basically poorly implemented. So the argument was, if you bought Red Dead Redemption is a good-looking game, but the HDR implementation is apparently not good. So it might be one of the best-looking games ever made, but the HDR is not great. So it's kind of like, you know, Doom. It's like Doom 2016. It's one of the best-looking games ever made, but but there's no HDR improvement. There's no HDR version of it. There's no good HDI version of that. At least not yet. They'll probably remaster one. When the new consoles come out, they'll make a 4K version of Doom if they can. Maybe it'll work. I mean, they already got 1080p 60 out of it. Actually, no, they got dynamic resolution scaling out of it. So if they ever re-release Doom, like like a Doom Slayer version of whatever, you know, like Raising Hell Edition or whatever would be they would probably be well, they might get 4K out of it, or I'll tell you what, they might do a 4K 30 mode, but people will probably choke. So what they probably should do is just do well, they already have 1080p 60. Maybe they can do 1440. They can do a performance mode that's 1440 60 with dynamic resolution scaling. Would people play a 30 FPS version of Doom on the Pro? Really? Like on the Xbox One X? Because I mean, obviously they're willing to play it on the Switch, because the Switch is 30 FPS. But the thing about Doom on the Switch is that it's basically like a miracle port. Like they took one of the most demanding games on consoles, like Wolfenstein 2. Took one of the most demanding games on the market and made it work with the Switch. Now, of course, they cut it back a lot. You know, it's like a traditional console port back in the day. Like, what do you cut? You cut some of the background. You cut some of the background animation. You cut back on animation cells. Like, you cut back on some animation frames. You reduce the frame rate. You reduce the display resolution. You put letterboxing on the top and the bottom and the sides of the screen. I mean, you basically cut back. You cut back on everything. You compress the assets. You know, you reduce the color depth. You know, you basically reduce everything, and you make it work. And in the case of Wolfenstein 2, they made it work. It's only 30 FPS, and it can't hold it all the time, and they reduced the resolution to like 480p, I think, in spots. Because when it gets really hectic, they got to reduce the resolution to like 480p. Look, nice hidden room right here. See that camera cut right there? You had to punch that wall to see that. So that's clever. This game's a bit too linear for me, quite frankly.